Jacob's adventure, the man who wrestled with an angel. Different twins. A long time ago, in a distant land, two twin brothers were born, and they couldn't have been more different from each other. Their names were Esau and Jacob. Esau, the older one, was strong and hairy, and he loved being outdoors, hunting, and exploring the fields. He was his father Isaac's favorite, as Isaac loved the dishes prepared from Esau's hunts. Jacob, on the other hand, was calm and preferred staying at home, helping his mother Rebekah. He had smooth skin and a gentle demeanor, making him his mother's favorite. Though they were twins, their differences went beyond appearances and interests. As the firstborn, Esau had a special privilege called the birthright. This meant he would inherit the largest portion of his father's wealth and receive an important spiritual blessing. But Jacob had something in mind. He wanted that blessing for himself. Even as children, their distinct personalities were evident. Esau was impulsive and acted without thinking, while Jacob was more calculating and strategic. These differences would eventually lead to major conflicts between them, shaping the course of their lives. Between childhood games and family disputes, the seed of a great conflict was planted. The relationship between Jacob and Esau would never be simple, and it was about to become even more complicated. Transition to the next chapter, but what would Jacob do to obtain the blessing he so deeply desired? And how would Esau react? This is where the Real adventure begins. Hi there. I'm Kimberly Swan, and I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to My Friend Jesus, a space where we share stories, lessons, and reflections that bring us closer to God and inspire our hearts. I'd love for you to join our community, where we grow together in faith and support one another. You're not just a viewer here, you're family. Take a moment to share in the comments this powerful reminder: with God, every step I take is a step of faith. Let's fill this space with encouragement and love as we journey through these incredible stories together. Jacob's deception. Jacob's opportunity came one day when Esau returned home from the fields, exhausted and famished. Esau saw Jacob preparing a delicious pot of stew. Overcome by hunger, Esau exclaimed, "Let me have some of that red stew, for I am starving." Jacob, seeing his chance, responded with a cunning offer. "Sell me your birthright first," he said. In his desperation, Esau barely hesitated. "What good is my birthright to me if I am about to die of hunger?" he replied, agreeing to Jacob's condition. With that, Esau swore an oath, trading his birthright for a simple meal. Jacob had taken the first step toward securing the blessing he so desired. Years passed, and Isaac grew old and blind. Sensing his time was near, he called Esau and said, "Go out to the fields, hunt some wild game, and prepare me the tasty food I love. Then I will give you my blessing before I die." Rebekah overheard this and quickly informed Jacob. "Your father is about to bless Esau. Here's what we will do. Bring me 2 young goats, and I will prepare a dish just the way your father likes it. You will take it to him, pretending to be Esau, and receive the blessing in his place." At first, Jacob hesitated. "But Esau is hairy, and I am smooth-skinned. What if my father touches me and finds out? He will curse me instead of blessing me." Rebekah reassured him, saying, "Let the curse fall on me. Just do as I say." So Jacob followed her plan. He dressed in Esau's clothes, and Rebekah covered his hands and neck with goat skins to mimic Esau's hairy skin. When Jacob brought the food to Isaac, his father was suspicious. "How did you find the game so quickly, my son?" Isaac asked. Jacob replied, "The Lord your God gave me success." Isaac felt Jacob's hands and said, "The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's." Still uncertain, Isaac finally blessed Jacob, passing on the birthright and spiritual promise meant for Esau. Shortly after Jacob left, Esau returned with his meal, only to discover the deception. Furious and heartbroken, Esau cried out, "Bless me too, my father." But Isaac replied, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau vowed revenge, saying, "The days of mourning for my father are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob." Fearing for Jacob's life, Rebekah sent him away to her brother Laban's house, setting the stage for the next chapter in Jacob's journey. The dream of a heavenly ladder. As Jacob fled from his brother Esau, he traveled far from home, burdened by guilt and fear of the unknown. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a deep shade of orange, Jacob found a quiet place to rest. Using a stone as a pillow, he lay down under the open sky, surrounded by silence. That night, Jacob had an extraordinary dream. In his vision, he saw a magnificent ladder reaching from the earth all the way to heaven. Angels were ascending and descending on it, carrying messages between God and man. At the top of the ladder stood the Lord himself, who spoke to Jacob in a voice filled with power and love. "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac," said the Lord. "I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised." When Jacob awoke, he was filled with awe and wonder. He exclaimed, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." Trembling, he took the stone he had used as a pillow, set it upright as a pillar, and poured oil on top of it to consecrate it. He named the place Bethel, which means house of God. Jacob then made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and watch over me on this journey, providing me with food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God. This stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth." With renewed hope and faith, Jacob continued his journey, knowing that God was with him and had a plan for his life. Jacob's years of hard work. Jacob eventually arrived at the land of his uncle Laban, where he was warmly welcomed. Laban had 2 daughters, Leah, the older one, and Rachel, the younger. Rachel was beautiful and caught Jacob's eye immediately. He fell deeply in love with her and offered to work for Laban for 7 years in exchange for Rachel's hand in marriage. Laban agreed, and Jacob worked tirelessly, driven by his love for Rachel. The 7 years seemed like only a few days to Jacob because of his deep affection for her. But when the time came for the wedding, Laban deceived Jacob by giving him Leah instead of Rachel. Jacob was shocked and confronted Laban, who explained, "It is not our custom to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this bridal week with Leah, and I will also give you Rachel, in exchange for another 7 years of work." Though disappointed, Jacob agreed and married Rachel as well. Over the years, Jacob worked hard for Laban, tending his flocks and ensuring their prosperity. Despite Laban's repeated attempts to cheat Jacob, God blessed him abundantly. Jacob's herds grew, and he became wealthy, building a large family with his wives, Leah and Rachel, and their children. Though Jacob faced challenges, he remained determined and trusted in God's promise. After many years of service, God told Jacob, "Go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you." With this reassurance, Jacob prepared to leave Laban's household, taking his family and possessions with him. The journey back home. As Jacob began his journey back to his homeland, his heart was filled with mixed emotions. He was eager to obey God's command, but deeply afraid of facing his brother Esau. The memory of Esau's anger and threats still haunted him. To prepare, Jacob sent messengers ahead to inform Esau of his return and to offer gifts of livestock as a gesture of peace. The messengers returned with alarming news: Esau was coming to meet Jacob, accompanied by 400 men. Terrified, Jacob divided his family and possessions into 2 groups, thinking, if Esau attacks one group, the other may escape. He then prayed earnestly, saying, "O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, you who said to me, 'Go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper,' I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me and my family." That night, Jacob prepared more gifts for Esau, sending them ahead with his servants in separate groups to soften Esau's heart. Each group was instructed to say, "This is a gift for my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob is coming behind us." Left alone in the camp, Jacob's anxiety grew. But he was determined to reconcile with his brother and fulfill God's plan. What Jacob didn't know was that the most transformative moment of his life was just around the corner. Jacob wrestles with God. As the night deepened, Jacob found himself alone, grappling with his fears and uncertainties. Suddenly, a mysterious man appeared and began to wrestle with him. The struggle was intense, lasting through the dark hours of the night. Jacob fought with all his strength, refusing to let go, even as his body ached with exhaustion. As dawn approached, the man touched Jacob's hip, wrenching it out of its socket. Despite the pain, Jacob held on, determined and unyielding. "Let me go, for it is daybreak," the man said. But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob realized that he had been wrestling with God himself. Filled with awe and reverence, he named the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." As the sun rose, Jacob limped away, his hip injured but his spirit transformed. The encounter marked a turning point in his life, symbolizing his new identity and strengthened faith in God's promises. Reconciliation with Esau. As the sun rose and the events of the night lingered in Jacob's heart, he saw the approaching figure of Esau in the distance, surrounded by 400 men. Fear gripped Jacob once again, but he clung to his newfound faith. He organized his family, placing Leah, Rachel, and their children behind him, and walked ahead to face his brother. When Esau came closer, Jacob bowed to the ground 7 times as a sign of humility and respect. To his surprise, instead of anger or vengeance, Esau ran to him, embraced him, and kissed him. Both brothers wept, their years of conflict and pain melting away in that heartfelt moment of reconciliation. Esau looked at Jacob's family and said, "Who are these with you?" "These are the children God has graciously given your servant," Jacob replied. He introduced his wives and children, each bowing respectfully before Esau. Esau then asked about the gifts Jacob had sent. "What do you mean by all these droves I met?" "To find favor in your eyes, my lord," Jacob answered. But Esau declined, saying, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." Jacob insisted, "No, please. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably." Esau finally agreed, and the brothers parted in peace. Jacob, now Israel, continued his journey, knowing that God had not only restored his relationship with his brother but had also reaffirmed his promises. Jacob's new identity. Jacob continued his journey with a renewed sense of purpose and a heart full of hope. Though he now walked with a limp as a reminder of his encounter with God, his spirit was strong. He understood that he was no longer just Jacob, the one who deceived, but Israel, the one who had prevailed with God. As he led his family forward, Jacob reflected on how far he had come. His fears, struggles, and mistakes were now part of a larger story of God's faithfulness and transformation. Each step he took brought him closer to the land God had promised, and he was determined to live up to his new name and identity. Jacob and Esau's reconciliation had brought peace to his family, but it also reminded him of God's greater plan, to make his descendants a great nation. As Jacob set up his camp in the land of Canaan, he built an altar and named it Elohim, meaning God, the God of Israel. It was his way of declaring that the God who had walked with his grandfather Abraham and his father Isaac was now his God as well. Jacob's journey was far from over, but his transformation was complete. He had learned to trust God fully, to face his fears, and to embrace the future God had planned for him and his family. From that day on, Israel became a symbol of God's covenant and faithfulness to his people.